Trojan fans, 2023 is the most anticipated USC football season since.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Hulkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're watching me on YouTube or wherever you like to download your podcast, we are free. I appreciate your support. Do me a favor, show your appreciation. Help me get to that 4,000 subscriber level before the season starts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. I don't want you to miss an episode. Make sure you hit that bell notification button. That way you won't miss one. And also smash that thumbs up. It means a lot. Can't even express to you how much it does. This episode of Locked On is brought to you by FanDuel. Every moment means more. Right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. That's FanDuel.com/locked on. Okay, Trojan fans, ask the question. When was the last time you were this excited for the season to start? In 2016, that was a season. It was supposed to jumpstart the whole Max Brown era. All he was being asked to do back then was, first game, head out to Dallas, go take on Alabama. And for about 20 minutes, USC was competitive, and they actually led the Crimson Tide for the first 20 minutes of that game. Then there was a pick six, and the final score ended up being Alabama 52, USC 6. So, despite that national TV embarrassment and a 1-3 start to the season, that's right, the Trojans actually still found a way to finish with a 9-game winning streak. And that also included a Rose Bowl win over Penn State. So, for many, probably including myself, this is the most anticipated USC football season since 2017. Because back then, everyone was anticipated Sam Darnold coming back and USC had a pretty good schedule. And if they were able to navigate that schedule, they could have literally put themselves into the playoffs that year. That's how excited everybody was. 9-game winning streak, coming off the Rose Bowl. Sam Darnold looks like the next greatest USC quarterback. And it turned out, USC actually won their first 4 games in 2017. They now had a 13-game winning streak. And then they lost to Washington State on the road, 30-27. And Washington State was actually pretty decent that year. They were 9-4. What happened at the end of the year? USC ended up making the Cotton Bowl after beating Stanford for the second time that year. They won the conference championship game. What the reward was, USC ended up in the Cotton Bowl versus an Ohio State team, and that final score was 24-7. USC finished that season 11-3. Let's fast forward real fast. We're in 2023. So you can see some of the similarities there. If there was ever a season for USC fans to literally empty their savings account and just say, look, I'm buying in. I'm going all in. This would probably be the season. Look, as much as we love Sam Darnold and his flair, he's not Caleb Williams. Hindsight's 2020. Nevertheless, every now and then, a player is going to come along who becomes a must-watch TV guy. It's whenever he is on, you want to find the channel and you want to just be glued if you can't be there in person. We're talking about players like Reggie Bush, Marcus Allen, Charles White, Superman, Caleb Williams. I'm old enough to remember the Pete Carroll era. And I can still remember the Coliseum being literally the place to be every single weekend. Well, there's that similar vibe and aura, if you will, that's kind of surrounded this team right now. And there's that feeling that this team and the way it's been built can do something pretty special this year. And special, defined by USC standards, means a national championship in football. Look, I do not need to be reminded about the defense from last year. I've talked about it ad nauseum, both positively as well as critically. But let me also remind some of you who won't let that Alex Grinch bone go, it's time for you to drop it. And I'm going to tell you why. I love my everyday listeners and viewers. These stats are courtesy of one of my favorite everyday viewers, HR Pickin' Stuff. By the way, great name. I don't know what it means. Maybe you can let me know in the comment section. I love it. In the games that USC lost last year, remember, they lost 3 times. 2 of those were by 1 point. At Utah, they lost 43-42. A reminder for all of those who want to keep blaming Alex Grinch and his system, there might be some validity there. Jordan Addison was lost early in that game. And then I'm sure everybody remembers Eric Gentry hopping up and down on one leg when he couldn't play. USC lost that game by 1 point. Yes, we can talk about the conference championship game. They lost by more than 1 point to Utah. But if I have to explain that conference championship game loss to you, then you're probably not smart enough to watch the show. So, Cliff Notes version, Utah was about to go down by 3 touchdowns before Caleb Williams hurt his hamstring. If you can't connect the dots from there, get somebody to help you out. And then their other 1 point loss, the Cotton Bowl to Tulane. Look, there was no effing way that USC should have lost that game. It literally was an anomaly. When ESPN's probability meter says 99% chance of winning with 5 minutes to play, you have to seriously mess up and do things the wrong way. Well, that loss starts with Lincoln Riley, and it ends with everyone who was involved. Everyone that was involved. So let's also remember that last year's defense was not deep. And I have been trying to reinforce that narrative as we get closer to the season. I really want to draw that line in the sand. Why USC's defense wasn't up to par, wasn't what a USC defense should look like. They weren't deep. There was no depth. I mean, if it was a pool, it would be the kiddie pool at the local community center. You can't drown in it. It goes up to your kneecap. No depth whatsoever. During the offseason, Lincoln Riley has given Alex Grinch and the defensive coaches all the missing pieces they needed last year. I don't know if this is the best roster in Lincoln Riley's career, but it's USC's best roster in a long, long, long time. You know, the 3, if you say it 3 times, it's for emphasis. I mean it. And I think everyone believes Lincoln Riley, along with Caleb Williams, together, conducting a symphony, the USC offense. That offense is probably going to sound and look a lot like the fireworks show on the 4th of July with the 1812 overture playing in the background. You know what I'm talking about. If you don't, look it up. Add a little culture into your life. Let me say it again for the umpteenth time. USC's football team nearly pulled a MacGyver last year and made the playoffs. Look, they ran out of bubble gum. They ran out of paper clips and rubber bands. But this year, they're also better than they were last year. And Riley has way more stuff in his pocket to use in case he needs to figure things out. Look, yes, the schedule is tougher once USC travels to South Bend for game number 7. Up until then, it's an easy schedule. But games 7 through 12, yeah, it's difficult. So tell me, if you're not excited and anticipating the possibility of an undefeated USC and Notre Dame meeting up, I don't know what gets you excited and anticipating a USC football season. You're only going to get a few chances in life to witness greatness when you're not watching this show. So are you going to let the, 7 chances left to see Caleb Person play in person at the Coliseum this year pass you by? Probably not. Here's what I do know what's going to happen. By the time this season is over, despite the Coliseum only seating, 77,500 people per game, everyone that I bump into when the season's over is going to be saying, yeah, I was there when Caleb did ... Look, football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long. Because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win during the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you're going to get bonus bets for each victory they have during the season. And you can use your bonus bets on spreads, on player prop bets, over-unders, and a whole lot more. So just visit fanduel.com/locked-on and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's fanduel.com/locked-on. I got a question for you. I always got a question for my listening and viewing audience because I want your feedback. That's what the comment section is for. This is an interactive show. I lead you to water, you drink. As you're looking at today's rundown, I use the term underdog, and that's probably not the best way to characterize it, but who on the roster are you rooting the hardest for? Like I said, underdog's probably not the best choice of words. I would say less heralded. Guys who just need a chance to show what they're capable of if they're given enough reps on the field during a game. I'm going to skip over the obvious choice because my gut still hurts from that punch it took on Monday. So, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch Monday's episode of Locked on USC. I encourage it. On offense, though, I can think of a few guys who I'd like to see have big years. The first guy that pops into my head is at running back. He's a redshirt senior, Darwin Barlow. I still remember him ripping the Bruins defense a new one last year. Remember that last touchdown that USC scored when he lowered his shoulder as he approached the goal line, knocking that Bruin defender about 3 yards back? Yeah, that was Darwin Barlow saying, tackle this. Yeah. You would have thought for sure that performance in the Rose against UCLA would have at least given him the opportunity, the chance to show what he could do in the Cotton Bowl. He's from Texas, but he didn't even get one chance. That bothered me a little bit on a personal level. Look, there's a lot going on during the game. I'm not going to ever question Lincoln Riley's decision on who to play in the game. I might question it afterwards. Nevertheless, he's going to get the benefit of the doubt 98% of the time. Here's why I'm rooting for Darwin so hard. He's one of the last of the Helton holdovers. He transferred to USC. So you can understand my reasoning. Next player, and without a doubt, easy, Jude Wolfe. As a senior at St. John Bosco, he had 14 catches, 225 yards. That's 16 yards per catch, and 7 touchdowns. That was back in 2018. Another one of those guys who came to USC when Helton was, and at this point, when he chose USC, Helton was still kind of riding that Rose Bowl euphoria. And Jude got into a few games last year. He's healthy this year. Keep walking to practice, Jude. Now it's his turn. I am rooting extremely hard for Jude Wolfe, one of my favorite guys on the team. Two more guys on the offensive side of the ball that I want to talk about. I mentioned both of their names on yesterday's episode of Locked On USC. Neither one of them is going to be Caleb Williams' number one target, but Kyron Hudson and Michael Jackson III are a couple of guys that I'd love to see have some really big moments this year. Let me start with Kyron. I still remember his face and his body language after that loss to Cal up in Berkeley back in 2021. Anybody who's played competitive sports, then you know what it feels like to lose a game. Not to mention all the other stuff that led up to that moment for that game. I talked about it. Real Cliff Notes version. There was a player mutiny that week of the game. Some guys didn't even want to go up or play the game at all. Anyways, they played the game. And I just remember Kyron, he was the last guy off the field. He made sure that he greeted each player as they were leaving the field, going back down into the locker room. I have a lot of respect for players who take those types of games personally. Kyron's that type of guy. Doesn't talk, he just goes out and plays. As far as MJ3, he just needs to stay healthy. And part of that is on him. Not that he's reckless or careless, but he plays with such a tenacity. He kind of reminds me if you took Juju Smith-Schuster and Amon-Ra St. Brown and you combine their best attributes, that's MJ3. As I said, he just needs to stay healthy going into his third year. Again, he's part of the Helton fact. He's part of that Helton crew. And that really counts a lot for me. Let me flip to the other side of the ball, defense. I think everyone's going to agree that Corey Foreman is the natural choice here, right? No matter what happens in Corey's future, he is always going to be a Trojan hero because of that game-winning interception he had last year to seal Darwin Barlow's touchdown and the USC win over UCLA at the Rose Bowl. However, when you come in as the number one overall player on defense in the nation, you need to have a breakout year in year 3. Period. Everyone wants Corey to shut everyone up. I want it too. The next time we're talking about Corey Foreman, it's because he has developed and turned into that player everyone anticipated he would be coming out of high school. Another guy that I cannot wait to see have a big year. And is another guy who's coming off of finally being healthy, Max Williams. I want to see what he's capable of when he's not coming off an off season of rehabbing. That's this year. Pardon me. Another guy on defense, Rajon Davis. He showed the staff what he's capable of if they put him out there. You saw a brief glimpse of it in the Cotton Bowl. He's going to get his chance this year. Now he just needs to make the most of it. A couple of guys in the secondary. Anthony Beavers, Prophet Brown. Again, 2 more Helton recruits who Riley kept around. Is senior Chris Thompson going to come out of nowhere at inside linebacker? Is he just going to blow everybody away? Say, hey, Don't forget about me. Love to see it happen. And I'm not sure if Stanley Taufo belongs in this group or not because he plays a lot. But again, he came in at linebacker and switched to nose guard. I know Kobe Pepe belongs in this discussion. Another kid from Bosco. Look, there's a theme here. I've said the name a few times now. If you came in before Lincoln Riley took over the program and you're still around, you're still here because that means Lincoln Riley and his staff want you to be here. So go prove it on the field. Now's your opportunity. And let's be honest, who doesn't want to see, these local kids, finger quotes, shine? So more of the local, finger quote, kids will stay home and play at USC. This goes back to the guys who are uncommitted, and even the ones who are verbally committed. They want to see what USC is capable of. I have a feeling they're going to get their chance this year. And if they do, those players like Aiden Breland at Mater Dei, they might say, you know what? I'm staying home. You might have a Kingston Viliamu Asa saying, I was committed to Notre Dame. I want to stay home. Again, when you see players that you went to high school with or that went to the same high school that you go to now are being developed, some might take longer than others, and then showing it on the field, that's a great message to send. So you heard the players I picked. Most of them are local. Who do you want to see have a breakout year that we don't talk about often? Who are some of the unheralded players that don't get some of the same type of notoriety that a Caleb Williams or a Zachariah Branch, Marshawn Lloyd? You see where I'm going with this? Who are some of those guys? You tell me. So, pride really does cometh before the fall. You've all heard the saying before. Well, it appears that the folks who are making the decisions on the fate of the Pac-12, they're starting to point the fingers at each other. Open up about what happened. Last week, Washington State Cougars athletic director Pat Chun, he said the following, quote, there's a century of history that has gone by the wayside because this conference has mismanaged itself on a bunch of different levels. And when you have poor leadership, one of the outcomes is failure. That's what has happened to the Pac-12, end quote. Ouch. Direct shots were taken right there at former Pac-12 Commissioner Larry Scott, as well as some past and current school presidents. Some took that hit right between the eyes. Well, since AD athletic director Pat Chun made those comments, more stuff's starting to come out. Ben Bolch, who writes for the LA Times, he's reporting that George Kliavkoff apparently tried blocking UCLA's move to the big conference with the UC regions. Okay, well, we know that ploy didn't work out, and what it ended up making the state of California look stupid once again. That's the cross that I have to bear being from California. Anyways, I digress. But what happened is in October of 2022, ESPN offered the Pac-12. I've talked about this before. Again, ESPN said, we'll give each school $30 million. However, there was a Pac-12 president who, and this is quoted in the story, worked with a professor on his campus who estimated the school's market value was $50 million per school, or at least his school. So the Pac-12, based on that professor's advice, asked for $50 million per school. ESPN said, yeah, no, bye-bye. And this is why I'm going to continue to bring this up every chance I get and remind my friends who like to wear green and yellow that you need USC. Always have, always will. However, at least you started comparing yourself to UCLA. I think you found the bar. When Commissioner Kleofkoff presented an idea to the Pac-12, basically how to keep UCLA and the LA TV market, Oregon's interim president, Patrick Phillips, vehemently shut it down. Quote, he said, he would not have the Ducks in a conference where they have to take less money than UCLA. Didn't hear USC's name in there because he knew. So essentially, any conversation about that, about the possibility of keeping UCLA and the LA TV market together in the Pac-12, conversation was over. Basically, the UC Regents told George Kleofkoff they would block UCLA's move to the Pac-12, to the move from the Pac-12 to the big conference, if he guaranteed UCLA get $52 million in the media deal. Kleofkoff brought the idea of the presidents. But again, Oregon said, no, we're not going to do that. We can't be in the same league with UCLA and make less than them. Deep breath, heavy sigh for Oregon. Guess what? They are now making half of what UCLA makes in the Big Ten Conference. As I said at the top of the segment, pride really does cometh before the fall. Those folks up at Oregon, they had to suck it up. They had to get on their knees and say, you know what? We'll take that $30 million from the big conference. All right. I'm done. That's it for this episode of Locked on USC. I'll be back with another episode tomorrow. Don't worry. 5 times a week. So until that next episode of Locked on USC. When you're done making this episode, what do? When you're done making Locked on USC your first listen every day, you then head on over to wearesc.com so you can read what I wrote. You could read what Eric McKinney wrote. You can get caught up on all the recruiting information from Scott Schrader, Marshall Levinson, and you never want to miss Chris Arledge's musings and Greg Katz. Yeah. The dude's a historian. Head on over there. That's where you pay a subscription to get some stuff. Here, every day, Monday through Friday, it's for free, Locked on USC. So until that next episode, everyone, you know what to do.